Charlotte is just as good as it looks, but it has things that people don't mention when they're trying to sell you a home. Today, we're walking through the unexpected pros and cons of moving to Charlotte, going back and forth so you get the full picture before you decide. I personally moved to Charlotte in 2020, and I've spent the last few years helping people relocate here from all over. This is my real experience. Con number 1, traffic. Let's start with the con because I want to get the fair warnings on the table first. The tricky thing about the Charlotte traffic is that the city feels small enough that you think it should be easy, and then you try to drive somewhere at 5 p.m. The keyword is try. Forbes ranked Charlotte as having the second worst commute in America in their 2024 analysis. The one-way commute runs about 28 minutes on average. But the number that hurts is the time you lose just sitting in traffic, which works out to 64 hours a year. During rush hour on the Bend roads, you're crawling along at around 30 miles per hour. To be clear, this isn't New York or LA. You can still get across town in 30 to 40 minutes most of the time, but the frustration is how random it is. Traffic shows up at odd hours on roads that you wouldn't expect, in ways that feel way out of proportion for a city this size. So it's a bit harder to plan around it. And the reason behind it ties straight into another factor that we're getting to later, the one that catches transplants the most by surprise. But let's go back to the traffic for now. The cause for all this traffic is no mystery. Charlotte added roughly 54,000 people between July 2024 and July 2025 alone, which makes it the 5th fastest growing metro in the country. The roads were built for a much smaller city and they're trying to catch up. But what my longtime Charlotte clients tell me is that you used to be able to just skip the highways and take the regular streets. That option is mostly gone now. It won't ruin your day, but you will definitely notice it. Now, before you write Charlotte off because of the commute, the same geography that creates the traffic also creates one of the best lifestyle perks in the country. Pro number 1, location. There's a phrase I hear from relocators on repeat. I didn't realize I could do that from here. That sentence shows up the first time they realize how much of the country is within easy reach of their front door. The geography here is a cheat code. The mountains are about 2.5 hours west, and the beach is about 3.5 to 4 hours east. You have Asheville for the weekend, Myrtle Beach if you want sand and salt, and both feel like a casual but not full-blown trip, you know? Beach Friday and Mountain Sunday is a common weekend over here. Then there's Charlotte Douglas Airport. From most neighborhoods in the city, you're about 20 to 30 minutes from the airport. From uptown, it's closer to 15, so if you travel for work, that becomes a quality of life thing fast. The bigger picture is that there's a kind of weekend here for everybody, whether it's lake life, mountain hikes, beach days, or international flights. You don't have to pick one. So that's the geographic win, but there's a flip side to all this desirability because when a city this appealing keeps growing this fast, the market for moving in starts to play by some unforgiving rules. Before that, I'm Gracie Griffin, a real estate agent here in the Queen City, and I can help you out if you're seriously thinking about Charlotte from out of state. I work with people relocating here every week. My contact info is in the description if you want to chat. Okay, back to the video. Con number 2, the competitive housing market. I've personally seen a lot of people miss their dream house because they underestimate the Charlotte market. And I don't want you to go through that, so I'll be straight with you. Charlotte's housing market is competitive, not like the frenzy of 2021 and 2022 where every home had 30 offers, but it's still a seller's market in the neighborhoods people want. Even sites like Redfin flag Charlotte as a competitive market, and there are roughly 2 interested buyers for every active listing, on average. Inventory has gotten better, but the demand has come right up alongside it. What makes this market tough for local buyers is the pressure from corporate relocators. Those buyers show up with employer packages that compress their timelines, so they're moving fast and negotiating hard. And they do that all year long. And keep this in mind, because even this pressure can be an upside when we look at the bigger picture. But I'll save that for later. Let's go back to the market for now. Okay. So what does this mean for you? Turnkey, well-priced homes in South Charlotte, Myers Park, Dilworth, and Plaza Midwood can still pull multiple offers and go over list priced. This crazy demand isn't market-wide, but it's alive in the neighborhoods you probably want. My honest advice is that you shouldn't wait for the market to come to you. Charlotte's best neighborhoods don't have dramatic price drops, so the demand for them never really goes away. That's why the buyers who win are the ones who know what they want. They have their financing locked in, and they move fast when the right home shows up. If you're stuck on the fence, your dream home might go under contract before you even decide. The good news is, all of this buyer pressure comes with a pretty huge upside. Pro number 2, the job market. Charlotte has one of the stickiest job markets in the country, and I'll tell you what I mean. The headline is that Charlotte is the second largest banking center in the United States, right behind New York, and Bank of America itself is headquartered here. Truist also has its headquarters in Charlotte, and Wells Fargo has one of its biggest employee bases in the country here. And on top of all of that, Ally is also here. Financial services employ well over 100,000 people in the metro, and that workforce has been growing faster than the national average. What that means for you, if you work in finance, is that you don't have to leave Charlotte to grow your career. People move between the major banks without ever leaving the city. And even if the banking scene is the one that makes the headlines, other areas are just as strong. 2025 was Charlotte's best year for corporate recruitment in over a decade, with 15 new project announcements, nearly 3,900 jobs, and over $424 million in investment. Scout Motors is bringing its global EV headquarters and 1,200 jobs to Plaza Midwood, and Maersk just relocated its North American headquarters here. Capital Group outside of LA is opening an uptown hub, and Japan's SMBC announced a second U.S. headquarters in April, planning to add about 2,000 jobs over the next 6 years. Banking is the foundation, but tech, automotive, logistics, and international finance are all stacking on top of it. That's the upside of all this growth and momentum, but every fast-growing southern city has a few weeks each year where the weather reminds you exactly what part of the country you're in. Con number 3, the summers are hot. There's a moment every relocator has during their first Charlotte August. You'll step outside, and you feel like you just lean down to take a peek at a hot oven. That's how you know that we hit August. Most people moving here expect the South to be warm, but very few are ready for what August feels like. The hot season runs from late May through mid-September, so about 3.5 months of heat. But the biggest enemy around here is the humidity. We see feels like readings well over 100 degrees in late July and August. In June of 2025, Charlotte Douglas hit a heat index of 101, and the surrounding areas got to 105 and 107. This isn't, let's say, Phoenix dry heat, where you step outside, feel the scorching sun, and move on. The heat in Charlotte is heavy, sticky, kind of suffocating. So yeah, AC is a must. The good news is that Charlotteans learn to live seasonally. They're outside early in the morning, they're getting their errands done before the sun heats up. Then they go inside during the afternoon to cool off and go back out when the sun gets low. The trade-off is that fall here is beautiful and it lasts forever. And by early October, you're back to some of the best weather in the country. A few weeks of August will humble you for sure, but there's another side to the Charlotte climate that most people don't see until they've lived through a full year of it. Pro number 3, the weather and mild winters. If you're coming from somewhere that takes winter seriously, Charlotte will change how you live your life. Now, not in some dramatic beach town way, but in a more practical way. You only notice after a few months in. Charlotte gets about 214 days of sunshine a year, and the average yearly temperature sits at around 61 degrees. From roughly March through December, outside of that brutal August stretch, the weather is very pleasant. You get 9, almost 10 months of being able to live outside without even needing to check your weather app. January and February are the winter months, but they're very mild. You'll see some days dip into the 30s, but plenty of winter days stay above 50. About half of the winter days stay above freezing, so you'll wear a jacket, but you won't be cooped up indoors for 4 months. And fair warning to my northern relocators, Charlotte famously shuts down at the very first hint of ice. Yeah, the whole city. That's a quirk that you'll come to love, hate, or switch up depending on the day. The fall here is the part that brings people. October weekends feel like a postcard, thanks to the patios being full, the leaves turning, and the humidity finally easing. It's the kind of weather that makes you want to find excuses to be outside all the time. For most of the year, the weather here is a real lifestyle upgrade. But there's one more con I have to walk you through, and it shapes everything we've talked about so far. Con number 4, severe car dependency. If you're moving to Charlotte and planning to ditch your car, I need you to reset that expectation before you sign a lease. Charlotte is a car city, and the structure of the city itself is laid out in a way that screams non-walkable. Only about 8% of Charlotte households don't own a car, so yeah, you'll need to bring yours. The city grew up around highways, which means jobs, neighborhoods, and shopping are spread across multiple counties in a way that public transportation can't serve well. Now, we do have the Lynx Blue Line, which runs about 19 miles from South Charlotte through Uptown up to UNC Charlotte. If you live and work in that area, especially in South End, it's a real quality of life upgrade. That neighborhood has built walkability around those stations. But for the rest of the city, the light rail doesn't really help all that much. They're trying to change this though, and the city has ambitious plans. A silver line connecting the airport to Uptown, a red line going north toward Lake Norman, and Mecklenburg County passed a sales tax in 2025 to fund this expansion. But these are 10 to 15-year timelines, so for now, the car is going to be your best option. The day-to-day reality is that grocery runs, errands, dinner with friends, weekend stuff, almost all of it requires a car. Even in the most walkable neighborhoods, you need one for anything beyond a short radius. If you're already a comfortable driver, this one lands softer because Charlotte's roads are wide. Parking is easy to find, and the driving itself isn't bad outside of rush hour. But if you valued walkability in your last city, like daily walks, regular transit, or bike commuting, this will take some getting used to. I'd rather you know that now than figure it out 3 months in. That's the last one of our cons. Why don't we wrap this up on a much more positive note? Pro number 4, price to performance. This is the part where I have to be honest with you because I'd rather you hear it from me than figure it out on Zillow at midnight. Yes, Charlotte has gotten more expensive, but calm down, it's still a pro, so hear me out. Even with higher prices, the value math in Charlotte still works in a way that other major metros just can't compete with. The current median home price across the metro sits in the low to mid 400s, and remember, that's the median, so half the market is below that. Charlotte's cost of living overall is right around the national average, with housing running below the national median. Let's talk about the neighborhoods so you can see where you would land. South Charlotte suburbs like Ballantyne, Matthews, and Waxhaw typically run in the mid 400s to low 600s, depending on the size. The premium in-town neighborhoods like Myers Park, Dilworth, and South End generally start in the mid 700s and climb up from there. If you want more accessible price points, University City and parts of the West Side still have listings in the mid to upper 300s. But what changes the math is the property taxes. Charlotte and Mecklenburg County's combined rate is around 0.8% of assessed value. On a $500,000 home, that's $4,000 a year. Compared to what buyers pay in New York, New Jersey, Illinois, or California, that number alone can put a few $1,000s a month back in your pocket. A $500,000 to $600,000 budget gets you a real house with a real yard in an established neighborhood. That same budget in Miami, LA, DC, or New York either doesn't exist or you get a studio. And when you stack everything together, the mountain and beach access, the deep job market, the climate that lets you live outside most of the year, and a price point that still works, the Charlotte equation starts to make sense, even with the trade-offs. That's why my phone keeps ringing. The honest pros and cons cancel each other out for some people and add up to a clear yes for others, and that's the whole point. So, if you're seriously thinking about a move to Charlotte and want a real conversation about where you fit in this city, email me at gracie.griffin@compass.com, or you can text and call me at 314-520-7165. I work with relocating buyers every week, and I would love to help you land in the right neighborhood. If this is the kind of straight talk Charlotte content that you want more of, hit subscribe. I'm putting out neighborhood deep dives, market updates, and relocation guides every week, made for people thinking about a move here. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.